Fred and Red, Children's Bedtime Stories by Catherine Lear. Chapter 1. Fred and Red. Fred and Red live in a tiny blue house. The house is only 900 square feet. They raise their son Ned in their tiny 2-bedroom home. Ned is attending college in Florida, and Fred and Red see him at holidays and during the summer months. Fred met Red when he was out shopping for gifts for his family. Fred was out late at night, during the extended hours of shopping, buying some last-minute gifts for his nephews. Fred's brother Bob had 2 sons that were ages 5 and 2. Fred was looking at the stuffed animals when he saw a very beautiful woman shopping in the department. Red was shopping for a last-minute gift for her niece. She also was looking at the stuffed animals for her 6-year-old niece. Red's sister Joy has 1 daughter, and Red wanted to buy her niece a special stuffed animal. When Fred's eyes met Red's eyes, he knew he wanted to find out everything about her. She smiled at him, and his face turned a bright shade of red. He had to think fast if he was going to get to know her in the very short time he had left during his last-minute shopping. He decided he would ask her about her suggestion for stuffed animals for his young nephews. When he asked her, she suggested the brown T-Rex and the green dragon. He also explained to him that she was shopping for her young niece and asked him what he thought. Fred explained to Red that he thought the fluffy lamb would be a great selection for her niece. Red agreed. When Fred introduced himself to her earlier, he said, "Hi, my name is Fred, and I am doing some last-minute Christmas shopping for gifts for my 2 nephews." Red replied, "Hello, Fred, nice to meet you. I hope you can find the perfect gift for them. My name is Red, and I am also shopping for a last-minute gift for my niece." Fred and Red had an immediate connection and ended up at the coffee shop for some chocolate, and Fred told her about his family, his job, and even his favorite color. Red told him about how she was born on Valentine's Day, and her parents struggled trying to decide what to name her. Her dad wanted her to be named Love or Candy, and her mom wanted Red because Valentine hearts are red, just like her bright red hair. So her parents named her Red. Red's favorite color is blue, and Fred's favorite color is yellow. The time went by so fast as they sipped on their hot chocolate. The waitress added extra whipped cream to their hot chocolate a few times before they realized they were talking almost 3 hours. They didn't want their time together to end. Fred asked Red if she would like to go out to a movie and a dinner sometime. Red said, "Absolutely." Later that week, Fred took her to the latest Star Tours movie and then to a great deli where they were served the greatest chef salads. They enjoyed the movie, dinner, and most of all, they enjoyed the time they spent together. After dating for about a year, Fred decided he wanted to spend the rest of his life with Red. Fred worked as a mechanic and Red worked as an office typist. So they were not wealthy. They didn't have a lot of money, so he bought her a gold ring with a small, sparkly diamond in the band. He would ask her to marry him at dinner at his parents' house that night. It was Valentine's Day, which is also Red's birthday. Fred got so excited and nervous that Red ended up taking him to the emergency department that night. Fred was having stomach pain. He was diagnosed with a stomach virus and given antibiotics. When they came out of the examining room, he knelt down on one knee in the emergency department's waiting room and presented Red with the engagement ring. She said yes, faster than a cat running across a hot tin roof. Everyone in the room clapped and said congratulations to Fred and Red. Red did have some trouble with getting married to Fred, but nothing big. She was born on Valentine's Day, and Fred was born on February 12th, 1 year before her, which made Red 363 days older than Fred. Not a big deal. And she said yes, they would plan their beautiful wedding for the next February 13th, the day between their birthdays. Their wedding was beautiful. The colors of the wedding party were blue and yellow. Red wore a beautiful white velvet bridal gown with a blue necklace, blue earrings, and blue shoes. Fred wore a black tuxedo with a yellow bow tie and flower. Red's flowers were made from silk that matched the color of her beautiful red hair. It was a great time. They received a lot of wonderful gifts at their wedding reception. During the year before the wedding, Fred and Red looked at about 24 houses. They ended up purchasing a tiny blue 2-bedroom house they both liked. They still live there today. They have one son, his name is Ned, and a pet bat, Splat. They also have a yellow dog named Ted. Chapter 2. Fred and Red Go to the Lake. Fred and Red bought a motorboat and wanted to water ski. Their boat could hold 6 adults and 2 children, but what they liked best was going to the lake alone. The lake was only a short 2-hour drive from their tiny blue house. They tried to get to the lake every other weekend. This weekend trip was going to be a fun time for their son Ned because he brought his best friend Nate along. Fred and Red's next-door neighbors, Jed and his wife Kate and their son Nate, were along for the fun weekend of water sports. Fred hooked their giant inner tube to the back of the boat for Ned and Nate to ride in. The rest took turns trying to water ski. Fred could flip one of his water skis off of his foot and ski on only one ski. Jed and Kate got fairly good at water skiing, but Red could only pull herself up and water ski for a few minutes. She would always lose her balance and fall. That never stopped her from trying over and over again. She loved water skiing and would laugh every time she lost her balance. She was always eager to try and try again. After being out of the water with their boat for a few hours, they searched for an open dock to park the boat. Fred pulled the boat into an open slip and tied the boat to the dock. The ladies and kids took turns jumping out of the boat, then walked the long wooden dock to the picnic area. Fred and Jed grabbed the coolers and followed right behind them. They settled for an older picnic table under the tree-shaded area to eat their lunch at the lake. Ned and Nate brought their baseball gloves and a ball along to play catch. Red and Kate sat on the bench and talked about how nice the weather is today. Fred and Jed talked about how much they love water skiing. Red wore her favorite sun hat with the big rim that keeps the sun out of her eyes. Her hat also kept her beautiful red hair from blowing all around in the wind. As she was under the shade trees chatting with Kate, she felt something hit her splat on the top of her hat. When she saw it was an injured black bat, she yelled out loud, "Fred, help! This bat just fell from a tree and hit me on the top of my hat." Red was so happy she was wearing her hat. She used to believe the rumor that bats attack your hair. She knows that bats only fly close to your head to try to catch bugs. Fred grabbed a towel from the picnic table, ran over and scooped up the cute black bat. He saw that the bat had an injured leg. Fred and Red loved animals, and they decided to take the very chubby black bat home to nurse it back to health. Ned decided to name the bat Splat, the big fat black bat, because it fell splat on his mom's hat. It would take months for Splat's leg to heal, and Ned, along with his parents' help, took very good care of Splat, the big fat black bat. Ned looked up on a search engine how to care for a bat. They bought Splat special food and a special cage for him to live in. When Splat was completely healed, they let him go free in the backyard behind their tiny blue house. Splat never left and would sleep every day in the tree behind their house. Their dog Ted would bark at Splat now and then, but Splat would ignore the dog and fly down to see Ned in the evening after dark. Every Halloween, Splat would go along with Ned and Nate when they would walk house to house, getting candy, saying trick or treat. Splat would fly along Ned's side and land on his head when Ned would stop at each house for a treat. No tricks ever. Some of the neighborhood kids were afraid when Splat flew along at Ned's side. Most of the kids thought Splat the big fat black bat was the coolest Halloween fun all around town. Whenever Fred, Red, and Ned would go on a vacation, their next-door neighbors, Jed, Kate, and Nate, would keep their yellow dog Ted and also feed and care for Splat. Splat, the big, fat, black bat, is a very cuddly, loving pet for their family. They do not trust just anyone with their dog Ted and their favorite pet, Bat, Splat. Chapter 3. Fred and Red go out to dinner. Fred and Red have a favorite restaurant that serves pasta for two. Fred likes his pasta with a red sauce, and Red likes her pasta well done in a white cheese sauce. They do not get the chance to go out to dinner very often. When they do go out, they had been saving up for a couple months before they can go. They wanted to make the evening special and would, 9 out of 10 times, end up at the Railroad House in town. The Railroad House is the fanciest restaurant in town. It is a 2-story building that used to be a railroad station. The 2 large dining areas were elegant, with plush chairs and fine linen on the tables. Red especially liked the lighting from the antique-looking lights hanging from the high ceilings. This restaurant quickly became their favorite place for a date night out. Red looked in her bedroom closet for a perfect dress to wear that evening. She couldn't decide between the blue or the green dress. She liked the lace overlay on the blue dress and also the fact that blue is her favorite color. She tried them both on, and to her surprise, she liked how the green dress would flow as she twirled around. She got ready for their date night right after work and was very excited to be going out to dinner. Pasta for two sounded wonderful. Fred was dressed and ready to go. He was sitting in the living room on his favorite lounge chair when Red came out of their bedroom. She gave a quick twirl around to show how her skirt flowed. Fred said, "You look beautiful, and I like how that green dress flows on you." She replied, "Thank you," and told him she was ready for the great food and fun time out. It was a few months since she dressed up for a fancy occasion. Red loved going to weddings and receptions because of dressing up in fine clothing. Most of all, she loved the celebration of 2 people deciding to love enough to say vows to stay together for life. She would cry every time she would hear a couple repeat the loving words of their marriage vow. As Red was putting on a little makeup, Fred said he would start her car to warm it up. After being outside for a few minutes, Fred came back in the house and told Red that her car would not start. When Fred and Red went shopping for her car at their favorite car dealer's lot, she picked the only blue car in the row of new cars. She named her car Baby Blue. This was the first time her car wouldn't start. It was 7 years now, and no doubt something was worn out, possibly the starter. Fred said, "There's no time to figure out what is wrong with your car. We will take my truck." Fred's truck is his pride and joy and has been a necessary part of their lives. When they went to the truck lot to pick out a new truck for Fred, he picked a cool yellow extended cab truck with 4-wheel drive. He named his truck Yellow Fellow. That truck never failed to start and would haul most anything almost anywhere. Fred's truck started on the first try, and off to the railroad house they went. Red changed the radio station from a talk show to some easy listening love songs. They talked about what they were going to order at the restaurant and how hungry they were for spaghetti. At the restaurant, as they were going to be seated for dinner, they saw some friends from Fred's work and waved to them. Waved to them, hi! Later that evening, they ended up sitting together and chatting about the work picnics and bonuses for that year. Fred and Red had great food and great friends, and always had a great time on date night. Chapter 4. Fred and Red Go to a Football Game. Fred and Red loved their hometown and always attended hometown high school football games. When their son Ned was in high school, he played center for the Bow City Cardinals. Red only missed one game after she fell and injured her shoulder. She wanted to go with ice packs on her shoulder. The temperature outside was in the mid-30s, so she decided she would just have to miss the game that night. It was her left shoulder. Red would yell real loud for her hometown team. When she thought the referees were wrong, she would stand up and shout about it. As center, her son Ned often got hit pretty hard. After every game, Red was so glad that Ned was not injured more than a few black and blues and scratches. One football game, the temps dropped into the low teens. Fred and Red bundled up and took all the essentials along to the game for the needed warmth. Red's favorite thing to take along would always be hot chocolate. She survived the severe cold by sipping on hot chocolate and covering up with a warm, fuzzy blanket. Ned was the first-string center on the team and was a good player. Fred and Red were concerned because of the very, very cold weather. When Ned was taken out of the game because he said he did not have any feeling in his face, Red thought she just might have to jump over the divider at the bleachers onto the football field. She composed herself and kept calm. Ned warmed up in the locker room at halftime. Fred and Red loved every moment of going to these football games. Now Ned is in college getting a degree in psychology and had no time to play sports any longer. They still attend every home game and are proud to support the Bow City Cardinals. This year, Fred and Red decided to sit close to the band parents. They loved the band parents' enthusiasm during halftime band performances. The Silver Girl flag twirlers were fabulous too. Nothing was more exciting than their hometown high school teams and activities. They loved going and supporting them. At the end of the football season, there would be one more playoff game for the Cardinals to go on to the state championship. It was raining steady and the game would not be rescheduled. It was not a downpour, just a steady, cool rain. Fred and Red did not want to miss the playoff game. Red came out of their bedroom with 2 clear rain ponchos she purchased to use for the parks. She had them on hand for trips to Orlando, Florida, and Hershey, Pennsylvania parks. She told Fred that this will be the way they will be able to sit on the bleachers and watch the football game. For the playoffs, they arrived at the Bow City Cardinals Stadium 1 hour before the game would start. Red could see her breath mist in the cool rain, but she was determined to stay warm for the entire game. She took her gloves off to clap for the team when they ran through the giant sign through the cheerleaders, and Fred also sipped on hot chocolate they were sharing for this game. It was sort of fun wearing the silly clear rain ponchos for watching the game in the rain. Although it stopped raining about halfway through the first quarter, Red wanted to keep her rain poncho on to keep her body temperature warm. Because it stopped raining, the Bow City football team, their celebration would include fireworks. Fred and Red were totally surprised by this. They were excited to watch the beautiful colors of red, blue, green, purple, and gold fireworks blast in the sky above the stadium. The Cardinal team won that game 43-7. The fireworks were the icing on the cake, the frosting on the cake. They could hardly wait for the state championship game. Red was ready to yell, "Go Cards!" Chapter 5. Fred and Red join a gym. After Fred got promoted to lead mechanic at work, he decided that he was not getting any younger or healthier. He told Red that he wanted to go sit out on their swing in the backyard after dinner. He told her he had a big idea he wanted to talk about. Red cleaned up the dishes before heading out to the backyard to the porch swing. Fred fed their dog Ted some carrots while he thought to himself how he was going to present his big idea to Red. He would swing for a bit before he would tell her. As Red headed toward the swing to sit beside Fred, their eyes met. He smiled at her to let her know that everything was going to be fine. She sat down on the swing beside him and kissed him lightly on his cheek. He hugged her, and then they started to swing. Red started singing a little song she learned as a child. Fred asked her to stop singing so he could explain to her what his big idea was about. She stopped singing and turned to him and confirmed that she was all ears and listening. He began with a statement about her. "Red," he said, "this is not about you or your looks or that I think you are getting a little chunky. It's not about that. It is about the fact that we are getting older. Since I have been promoted to lead mechanic at work, I believe we need to join a gym to get some needed exercise. I want to use the exercise bikes and all the weight machines." Red hugged him again and said, "That will be good for our health, and it'll be fun, too. We might meet some new friends at the gym." Fred researched all the local gyms, and the best deal was to join the YMCA gymnasium. Red agreed, and they joined the Y for the benefits of the weighted machines, exercise equipment, and track. They talked it over and decided to go to the gym at 4 o'clock every morning. It would be difficult to wake up that early, but they were determined to succeed. The night before their first try, the alarm was set to wake up at 3:30 in the morning. When the alarm went off the next morning, Fred jumped right out of bed and dressed with enthusiasm. Red, on the other hand, had to drag herself out of bed. She wasn't nearly awake when they went out the front door. The streets were quiet as they took the 2-mile drive to the YMCA. Once inside the front door, the desk clerk Ray helped them check in and get through the security gate. Red went to the track and walked for 20 minutes, and Fred headed straight for the exercise bike. Red soon would switch to using the elliptical walker. Before she switched, she got to know Ray's wife, Kay. They would walk the track and talk about local happenings. Kay also switched to the elliptical exercise machines later also. Fred and Red only went to the gym daily for about 2 years. Red was upset because she only lost 7 pounds and the cost per month increased. Fred lost 18 pounds and was looking and feeling healthier. They decided to start an at-home exercise program and take long walks together around the lake. This worked out for them great. Fred and Red started eating healthier foods also. They liked fresh vegetables, healthy grains, and dairy products. Red was never taught how to cook as a young girl. She just recently became very interested in cooking and baking. She does her very best to cook healthy meals that are appetizing and tasty. Chapter 6. Fred and Red are married 25 years. Fred and Red would be married for 25 years on February 13th. They were trying to decide what they wanted to do for a celebration. They heard that the 25-year anniversary would be a silver anniversary. They really didn't want to have silver as their color. If they had a party to celebrate, the colors, of course, would be blue and yellow. Fred suggested that possibly a new truck would be nice. He would get a larger truck with a bigger truck bed to haul his tools. Red liked that idea and said that is good. It's a good possibility. She also mentioned that a new car would be nice too. They could only afford to have one car payment. They decided that a new car or truck would not be in the plans for this year. Fred asked, "How about a cruise or a trip to Florida?" Red had never been on a cruise, and she got excited about that idea. They would have to look into the expense involved in taking a cruise. They would have to decide what cruise line, what destination, and what type of cabin in the ship would they want to stay in. She agreed that a cruise would be nice. What they did not know is that their son, Ned, and his best friend, Nate, and their girlfriends, Sandy and Mandy, were secretly planning a big 25th anniversary party for them. Ned picked the Saturday right after February 13th, which happened to be Red's birthday. The day of the celebration would be on Valentine's Day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Ned would say he is flying home to celebrate their birthdays. He will say he is taking them out to dinner on Valentine's Day for their birthdays and leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. All the guests will arrive by 3 o'clock, and he would bring his mom and dad right after that time. All will join in saying, "Surprise!" Ned, Nate, Sandy, and Mandy were very excited and happy to plan the big surprise anniversary party for Fred and Red. It was 25 years! They would invite all their friends from work and old friends from high school. All the family that lived close by will be invited. Red's sister Joy and her family from Tennessee would be invited, and Fred's brother Bob and his family from Florida will be invited. Ned reserved the dining room at the Jubilee Inn downtown and went to meet with the caterers. He would taste test the food and pick out a cake and cake top for the celebration. Ned took Sandy along to taste the food. They chose Fred and Red's favorite food, starting with the fruit cup, salad, lasagna, and a couple of vegetable choices. The day of the celebration, Ned and Sandy picked up Fred and Red at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just as planned. On the way to the Jubilee Inn, Fred noticed a stranded driver in a minivan. He asked his son to pull over so he could check and see what was wrong with their minivan. The elderly gentleman in the van stated that his front right tire was flat. Fred would not allow this elderly man to change the tire by himself, and the man did not have any service planned for help. Fred got the spare tire out of the back of the minivan. He found the vehicle jack and raised the minivan high enough to change that flat tire. The elderly gentleman was so grateful and wanted to give Fred $25. Fred refused the money. They arrived at the 25th anniversary party about 15 minutes later than planned. Everyone yelled, "Surprise!" as Fred and Red entered the dining room of the Jubilee Inn. They were totally surprised. Red cried and Fred asked where the bathrooms were located. He had to freshen up after changing the tire. The party was a hit, and Fred and Red received oodles of cards with $25 inside. Chapter 7. Fred and Red Go on a Cruise. Fred and Red received a lot of money at their 25th wedding anniversary party. It was enough money to be able to plan a cruise. They started planning what cruise they would like to take to celebrate some more. They were grateful that their son Ned, his friend Nate, and their girlfriends planned the party for them. The 25th wedding anniversary party was so nice. Together they decided to go on a 5-day cruise to Mexico. They would drive Red's car to the port area in Texas. They booked a hotel near the port and stayed there the night before the cruise. They would cruise from March 18th to March 22nd. Even though they sailed one day after St. Patrick's Day, Red decided to take her flowy green dress along for formal night. Red wanted a lot of videos about cruising, and she was ready to take some pictures. She also watched a lot of videos about cruising, and she was ready, and she could be ready as she could be for it. She was elated and so happy and thrilled. Fred loved being on the water and thought it was very romantic to take a cruise with his beautiful wife of 25 years. He was looking forward to the balcony cabin and the calm breezes as they sailed. Red was looking forward to the shows and the karaoke singing. Red loved music, dancing, and singing. They both loved the water, and they loved swimming, so this cruise sounded very exciting. Red bought 2 new swimsuits. She didn't buy any new dresses for the cruise because she just loved picking out new swimsuits. She was shopping online and at stores searching for swimsuits for the cruise. She found a pretty striped whole-piece swimsuit and a cute zipper front back black swimsuit. She was ready. The hotel shuttle took them to the ship around 11:30 a.m. the following morning. They went through security, boarded, and were in the atrium by 12:30. Since their room would not be ready until 1:30 p.m., they decided to have something to eat. Fred was hungry for a cheeseburger, and they found a restaurant on board that served the best ever cheeseburger. Red loved the French fries, too. They ate there at that cheeseburger restaurant 4 times during their cruise. There was unlimited lemonade, pizza, and frozen yogurt. Red did not go overboard on the frozen yogurt. No pun intended. She didn't want the zipper on her dress to pop on her swimsuit or her dress. The pool and the hot tubs were fabulous. They spent a few afternoons by the pool and in one of the hot tubs with other cruisers. The meals were delicious and the choices were wonderful. Fred and Red loved the chocolate lava cake and whipped cream. This cake was offered every dinner. Other desserts were different every day. Red felt like she was going to gain 5 pounds by the end of that 5-day cruise. In Mexico, they got a taxi to a beautiful beach and sunbathed and swam in a lovely blue, clear ocean. The water was beautiful. Fred and Red also went shopping and bought some beach towels. Red bought a swimsuit cover-up and some hairpins for her pretty hair, which was graying slightly, but she didn't mind that. They both enjoyed the shows and breakfast with the cartoon characters. The sea day brunches were also flooded with so many choices. Red liked the potatoes and eggs, and Fred liked the waffles with the fruit on top. Cheese and fruit dishes were plentiful too. If they were choosing to eat healthier, they would choose the cheese and fruit. The last day of their cruise, when they arrived back at the port, they were sad that their wonderful cruise was soon over. A cruise is another perfect way to celebrate 25 years of marriage. Fred and Red talked about the cruise to their son and his friends. They wanted to plan a family cruise real soon, hopefully in the next year or two. They had the time of their lives on their first ever cruise. Chapter 8. Fred and Red at a Picnic. After the wonderful time they had on the cruise for their 25th wedding anniversary, Fred wanted to do something really special for their next anniversary. He was saving up for the whole year. Instead of buying a coffee or snacks at work, he was putting the cash in a locked drawer in his small office desk. After saving up over $2,000, he went to the jeweler where he purchased Red's first diamond band. He bought and he talked to the jewelry stores, the manager, and she recommended a band with diamonds all the way around the ring. He looked in the case of about 12 or so beautiful diamond-circled bands. He chose the one with 2 rows of diamonds all the way around the band. He hoped that Red would love it. Red also wanted to do something special for their next anniversary. She told Fred that she wanted to go on a special picnic to their favorite lake for their anniversary. The past year, she sewed purses from materials she had left over from other craft projects. She sold the purses to earn some extra cash. She bought Fred the waterproof camera he was telling her about last year. He wanted it for pictures during their water skiing fun at the lake. The day of the picnic was here, and they were both ready to show their love with their gifts. Red prepared deviled eggs because they were one of Fred's favorite picnic foods. She chopped up some fresh vegetables to prepare salad and cut up fresh fruits for their dessert. Fred bought some sparkling ginger ale for them to celebrate, since it was Red's favorite party drink. He planned to give her the ring after they enjoyed the great picnic food. After arriving at the lake, they found the perfect spot to spread out their checkered tablecloth. Red sat their picnic basket in the center of the tablecloth and started to lay out the plates and napkins. Fred couldn't wait just any more seconds, not one more second, to tell her how much he still loves her. He grabbed her hand and gave it a little squeeze while he started talking to her. He said, "I love you more today than I did when we first met eyes in the store shopping for our last-minute gifts for our family. I want to show you how much I care by giving you a special gift." Fred reached into his pocket and pulled out the small box and handed it to Red. Before she opened the box, she said, I love you very much and want to spend the rest of my life loving you." She reached deep into the picnic basket and pulled out her gift for him and handed it to him. Fred hugged her tightly and took the beautiful wrapped gift and set it down beside him. He explained to her that he wanted her to open her gift from him first. He would then open his gift right after she opened hers. Red agreed and slowly opened her gift. She loved wearing earrings and thought it just might be a pretty pair of post earrings. They would be great to wear with some of her nicer dresses. She slowly unwrapped the small gift. Red started to cry big, happy tears when she saw the sparkling diamond marriage band. She leaned forward and hugged Fred while struggling with words. She told him it was a perfect gift of love, and she planned to wear it always and forever. Fred opened his gift and was totally surprised by the great waterproof camera. He thanked her over and over again and told her he planned to get some great pictures of her water skiing on the lake and of her falling when she loses balance. It's such fun. They were having such fun with their surprise gifts they didn't notice their dog Ted eating the deviled eggs. Ted ate all 6 of them. They laughed. Chapter 9. Fred and Red Fly on an Airplane. Fred and Red always drove a car to get to the places they chose for vacationing. One time they took a bus to go to New York City, but they never flew on an airplane. Red hated heights, but after talking to Fred about getting older and not wanting to drive for 15 hours to get to the parks, she agreed to try flying on an airplane. The next year they booked flights to Tampa, Florida. They would visit Fred's brother Bob at his home in Florida. Bob lived very close to several parks in Florida, and Fred wanted to ride a new roller coaster ride at one of the parks. Many years ago, Fred and Bob rode a roller coaster that was painted green. The bulk roller coaster was winding turns and high speed. Fred loved every second of that ride and wanted to get back to visit his brother and to ride the newest roller coaster again. It would be a fantastic time. On the day of their scheduled flight to Florida, Red was very, very nervous. She was never this nervous before. She would need something to calm her nerves for this first time flying in an airplane. Fred reminded her that she loved music. She should take her earbuds along to take advantage of listening to her favorite tunes during the flight. She liked that idea. Bob had a pool in his backyard, and Red wanted to make sure she had enough swimsuits for their vacation to visit Bob. She was excited to get to swim in the sun and sunbathe some too. She packed an extra container of sunscreen, but first she went thrift shopping for another swimsuit. She picked out a very cute bright lime green suit with palm trees and pineapples in the design. She was ready at last. After going through the process of baggage drop-off, check-in, and boarding the plane, they were ready to get to their fun trip to Florida. Red listened intently to the flight attendant as she explained all the necessary things to be aware of during the flight. Red was staying calm and happy to be getting to their destination in only a few hours. On takeoff, as the airplane's speed got faster, she closed her eyes and grabbed the arms of her seat and held on tight. When the plane accelerated to a speed fast enough to lift off the ground, it felt like her cheeks were being pulled back to her ears. Once they were at the height needed for a smooth flight, she was finally calm. She was listening to her music and tunes, and after 3 songs, she decided to look over at Fred. He was happy that he had the window seat. She thought he would be looking out the window. She thought that Fred would be looking out the window, but much to her surprise, he was sound asleep. She only woke him up to ask if he wanted a soda. He wanted a Diet Cola. They also served them some pretzels, which Red ate every bite of them, while listening to her music through her earbuds. There was some turbulence, and Red grabbed the arms of her chair again. It wasn't that bad, though, and she kept mostly calm throughout the whole flight. The landing was not as smooth as she hoped. Fred was smiling while Red hugged his arm so tight during the descent of the airplane. Red decided that the pilot surely must have been an ex-military person, since he descended so steep and fast. She whispered the words she heard once during a movie. "Reverse engines." Fred laughed. Once in the park with Bob, they all rode the new roller coaster. Red thought she was going to die on that new roller coaster. She told Fred that she was never going to ride that one ever again. He said, "Your loss." Red grabbed his hand and said, "Let's get in line for my favorite ride." Fred replied, "Okay, let's do it. It is a small world after all." Bob laughed a belly-roll laugh, and they got in line for the 25-minute wait. It went by pretty fast as they chatted about life and how much they loved visiting the parks in Florida. Chapter 10. Fred and Red Planned to Travel. Red didn't love flying in an airplane, and she didn't hate it either. What she liked about flying is getting there so much faster. Fred and Red have flown over 10 times to get to their vacations and the parks. It got them there faster. Red would really like to visit Paris, France, if possible, and she added that to the bucket list. She wants to see the Eiffel Tower and overlook the city after reaching the top of the tower. She tells Fred that she wants to try some authentic Belgian waffles and visit Wales too. Scotland is on her list also because of her dad's family. Fred would like to visit Italy and England and take another mission trip to Haiti and Honduras. He wants to visit all the places that he loved hearing the history about from his grandparents when he was growing up. Fred and Red agreed that they would book a cruise every 2 to 3 years. They would go with family as much as possible. They will invite their good friends and neighbors Nate and Kate on the cruise. Now that they fly on airplanes, any destination is possible. One of Red's favorite places to visit is a park only about a 2-hour drive away from their tiny blue house. That park has lots of train rides and fancy holiday lights every year. They like parks and rides that might cause them to scream. They like parks with boats and lots of shows that include water skiing. They wanted to visit the capital of every state in the United States of America. And they want to try to get back to the chocolate-themed park in Hershey, Pennsylvania. The street lights at that park are even the shape of chocolate candy kisses. There is a world of chocolate things to do there. Hopefully they will get back there soon. The most important travel will be to visit Fred's brother Bob in Florida and Red's sister Joy in Tennessee. They had been to Florida and Tennessee many times and loved so many places in both states. It will be easy breezy to plan trips to see them. Fred wanted to surprise Red with a new suitcase for their new travel plans. He ordered some suitcases online for their travel. He found them on sale for only $50 each. He had the company embroider their names on the front of their suitcases. Of course, his suitcase is yellow and her suitcase is blue. They plan to travel when the time and money will allow. Red dreams and Fred beams. The end.